really know what's going on over there other than everybody's dumb.
The instant you step out of line, you say something that they don't like and they don't like you personally, they're going to use all those pre-existing laws and they're going to use it on you.
Woman exposed her male genitalia to women and underage girls. That's what happened.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way. It's super cringe.
Biggest callback episode of all time on Author Opinions, UOPod.com, Twitter, YouTube, the best podcast on Getter, Guy on Twitch, and then, of course, if you're listening on audio, it's Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Please share, leave us a review if you're listening to the audio version. It takes probably 10 seconds. Of course, you want to give it 5 stars. And then share on YouTube, subscribe on our YouTube channel, share on every other platform. If you're on Getter, please reshare this on Getter and help us grow. You know, we're just young, budding individuals in this workaday world trying to figure out what's going on between transgender swimmers, train fatalities. What else is on the board? The Proud Boys in January 6th and prosthetic boob teacher. Balloons.
Yeah.
Eric Butler.
And I just wanted to say, yeah, just on that note, we're only accepting 5-star reviews, right? Those are the only ones we're accepting.
That's a good way to get somebody to troll you with lower reviews. And of course, we'll read super chats on the air here. I see this platform we're using is now offering QR codes. I won't use those because I don't believe in them. It's just a way for somebody to be like, hey, your data. I was watching Shark Tank yesterday, as I'm known to do, and they're all bidding crazily for an app that scans your face for custom glasses, and obviously it has nothing to do with the glasses. Like anybody, like, hey, this is what glasses will look like. Obviously, they want your facial scanning technology, so then you can build a database of facial technology. So I'm not into giving away data. If you want, if it seems too good to be true, Eric, it probably is. So I don't know how QR codes came back. I feel like the lockdowns. Everybody had universally been like, I don't want to have to take out my phone and scan something so that you my phone information just so I can be linked to your page. Like I could just easily go to your website. And then they're pretty much gone. And then when the lockdowns happened, they're like, you got to use QR codes now again, everybody, for the airports and for your ID and to see what your temperature is at the time. So I think QR codes are a scam. And I won't be using them, and neither will be the viewers of this podcast.
Well, was that a recent Shark Tank? I'm out of the loop on Shark Tank. That's still happening. Is that like a new one, or is that old, or does it? I mean,
it's probably old. I think so. There's so many seasons. There's a 24-hour Shark Tank channel that I watch, and they came from 2011 to 2020. You got a problem with that, Eric?
Well, it's funny because there's a 24-hour cops station that I watch.
There is.
it just
pretty much Reels TV is just a real channel, though, but that just runs cops 24/7. Yeah. That's right. I get all your filthy American channels, too. British TV is the worst, though. It's all, here's a company with, we're early in the podcast. I think you're supposed to go the first 10 minutes without saying stuff that gets you banned, but transgender people and lesbians and everything, and then every British commercial has this huge disclaimer at the bottom. You really won't become cool if you eat McDonald's, stuff like that. So British TV is the worst. I'd rather watch the car insurance companies and pharmaceutical commercials of US TV.
Well, it's funny you said transgenders and lesbians, which are obviously, if you think about it for one split second, they're completely opposed to each other, right? Like same.
Well, it depends on which way they're going. Trans.
I can't. Look, this has been a running thing on this show and all my content basically, but I am not. This is the hill I will die on. It's not. I mean,
how many episodes did we do Lia Thomas in a row? I think it was like 8.
I don't know if it was that many, but then we lost.
You don't think?
I don't know if 2 months, maybe. You could be right. I mean,
last year probably around this time.
But the news cycle is so crazy, right? Like we'll finish this show, and then there'll be a story that I'll want to talk about next Sunday. But there'll be a week of stuff. I mean, it's just so insane. Sure. It's impossible to keep track of this stuff. But Lia is back because was it the Daily Wire? Is this the title? Is this the title track? that we're doing
This
here?
is the title track, but this is not the Daily Wire. This is a guy's thread. But yeah, I guess he's one of these guys, and it's funny because I was just bad talking this guy to you seconds before, and then I was like, they hired the biggest nerds to do their podcast about sports. Like they should have hired me. Daily
Oh, it was the
Caller,
sports guy. Yes,
Daily
okay.
Caller has always had better guys doing sports, and usually a couple of them have gone to Outkick.
Yeah,
They had that
I got a
guy
real bone to pick with Daily Caller. Tell him to come see me. I don't.
David Hookstead is the guy who went from Daily Caller to Outkick, and then Will Kane went from, I think, ESPN to Fox. So there's this whole like weird exodus where it's like somebody like me, or maybe that I don't know David Hookstead, but going from writing from a mainstream outlet, let's say, and then he transitions to sports. And it's funny, you got Will Kane, who's a sports guy, who transitions to news. It's just funny how there's this little pipeline that goes through them. But Crane and these guys, I was just Badman. I have to, when you put a vacuum on reverse, I had to push it back out because obviously doing good work out here. I never watched the show, so I'm just talking ish for no, which is kind of what I do. But he has this thread that brought back Lia Thomas for this amazing callback episode that we've got going here. And I'm going to blow up a little bit for us, for the viewers at home. That was me, I think. No, that's fine. Jake Crane said, "This is a thread we never
3.9 million views. I just want to throw that out there. So that's I'm not Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, as you know, but that seems like a pretty good amount of views. Am I wrong?
That's a good amount. That's 3.899 more million views than my tweets gets."
Okay.
This is a thread we never expected to write. We sat down with women's swimmer Riley Gaines. Now she is this girl who spoke out against it on the team of Lia Thomas, which is crazy because you have like at least a dozen people on this swimming team, if I'm not mistaken, and like upwards of 3 have spoken out against Lia Thomas. So the rest are just fine with I say this, dongs a flying in the change room.
No, they're not. They're not fine with it. They're not fine with it. They've been scared.
Well, they don't want to
submission
say anything.
successfully, right?
Yeah. Shared a lot of info. They did some digging. So it turns out the miraculous person that is Lia Thomas has a backup Instagram account. Blah, blah, blah. Who cares? There's their personal one. But then a so cleverly written one called Lia Thomas. Who would have even found that? Who would have even thought, Eric, that you'd use the letter next to the O in the alphabet on the keyboard? Promoting messages did play. On the other one, then a private account, as you can see, Lia K. Thomas is, of course, verified because we're in Instagram, and you, if you're got pronouns in your name, automatically get verified. But Lia Thomas, which is just a picture of him in a mask, has 361 followers. So in our research says at Jake Crane _ we found the observant wears who identified multiple IG posts about genophilia, which is dressing up as a woman for sexual pleasure, like basically what we've talked about on the show, Eric. And that's the hilarious about this, is that before any of this stuff started getting popularized, let's pat ourselves on the back here. I watch Michael Knowles talk about it a lot, and now it's coming out with Lia Thomas that a lot of these people, let's call them, you can't say these people, a lot of these people,
you people,
yeah, exactly, Don Cherry, they want to be the hot chick, right? It's a guy who wants to be the hot chick. He doesn't get the attention. He's like, if the only way I can get, like, they probably tried everything. Their life's a little bit sad. I'm not saying this to be mean, but their life's a little bit sad, and then they can't figure out how to get girls. So they're just like, wouldn't it be better if just I was the hot chick, if I got all the attention? And that's what it is. You can see that play out in plenty of movies over our time. Me and Eric are only 19, but you know how much we love movies. You've seen that story play out in many, many movies over time. Guy who doesn't get attention from girls gets angry, maybe becomes, whatever happens in the movie. And he thinks that it would be so much better if he was the one in power and being able to give this attention. That's what's happening with Lia Thomas here. The autogenophilia is a person who off by dressing up as the woman.
Can I
So
just
Lia Thomas,
just
yes, you can.
Okay, so there's this word for it, autogenophilia or whatever. Okay. Now, is this really any different from just a cross dresser? I mean, of course they get their kicks by doing that. You put this word on it, and then it becomes like a scientific thing, right? It's kind of
Well,
like, maybe, now bear with me here. Maybe this is a bridge too far, but it's like when people say things like, "This is a emotional support animal." Aren't all pets emotional support animals? Like, isn't that what I mean? It's a companion, right? Like, it just feels like you're putting a name on it. Now, don't get me wrong, this entire thing is completely weird, but isn't that the point of all of it? Like you said a week or maybe 2 weeks ago it was, they get their kicks, right? Their weird sexual fantasies by doing this. So now it's just got the name that I had never heard before this story broke. I mean, what's really the difference between this
well,
and the regular?
I don't think there is any difference. I think what is going on here is all types of sexual preferences and let's call them perversions or sexual whatever you want to call them that vary from heterosexuality as a name. Heterosexuality as a name. And anything that varies from the norm, let's say, of hetero and homosexuality, the most basic, like, like 1 and 2 of everything, it's going to have a name. Like if you're into autoerotic, the guy who from Kung Fu: The Legend Continues choked himself while touching himself, that sort of thing. So these weird that are out of the norm, they come up with a medical term for it, and that's just what this is. A cross-dresser, yes, if he's not going through if a transgender person doesn't go through any surgery, and this was the case before, yesterday, that a person who didn't go through with any surgeries was just cross-dressing. Now, ever since, Blair Thomas argued with people on a Vice panel, people are supposed to accept that
Blair White.
Yeah, Blair White was arguing.
Blair Thomas, that's like a terrible hybrid.
Did I say Blair Thomas?
Yeah.
Whoa, what's going on here?
here?
Basically, what I'm saying is they want you to believe that even if the person hasn't had any surgeries, has done no effort to change their sex at all or their gender at all, even though you can't really, if they haven't gone through any surgeries or hormonal treatments, that they're still transgender because they believe they're opposite sex. That's what I'm getting at there. So is it the same thing? Yes, but they want you to believe it's not. So AGP, genophilia, is a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. And so these are some of the posts here liked by this Lia Thomas account, which is of course NCAA record champ Lia Thomas. So this post is what, a girl looking at herself in the mirror and I guess being attracted to itself. This one says, talking about sexuality with my hetero, I'm guessing that means hetero friends. I'm guessing.
Wait,
but talking about sexuality.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, do you want to try to look that up?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
And then talking about my other friends, I'm guessing that's two men dressed as women getting it on. And that was from this Nicole girl. Next, tweet number 4, Jay Crane says, like by Lia Thomas, is still found in the Instagram account of Gwen Weisskopf, Lia's alleged romantic partner. So this is a crude drawing that I'm going to cover up there with the cursor of two men dressed as women kissing.
Have we come that far that we have to censor this weird cartoon draw? Like, I mean, that's crazy.
That's right. So what's going on there now is Gwen Weisskopf, which is another amazing tangent to the story, Eric, is that Lia Thomas living this, I guess you could call it somewhat secret life, or else you wouldn't be stuff on your own personal account. Not only is he doing all this stuff and outwardly admitting, but not directly, that he's dresses as a woman because he thinks it's hot, not because he feels that he really is a woman. But he's also got a boyfriend girl who is also a guy who named Gwen, who identifies as a transgender woman. And I'll bring this back up now. Gwen, this is Jake Crane again, really bringing Lia Thomas back into her life. So shout out Jake Crane. Gwen, who identifies Lia as his girlfriend, is also a, quote, trans woman. According to a GoFundMe page for Gwen's breast augmentation, he's also a, quote, unlicensed social worker living in Philadelphia, aka the city of brotherly love. Hilarious.
Okay, so how did he get so Crane, I assume, has some sort of personal or burner account that he was able to get the the follow
I
request
think
accepted.
I think the people that he cited in the early tweets here are the ones that found it. So the girl, the swimmer Riley Gaines, who again is the swimmer, and she was at that. I think it was in Utah presenting the state with a petition. So she's out there doing it, and I'm guessing she's the one that provided the imageries and the sourcing because somebody probably reached out to her. But Gwen here, which is actually a guy, has a Go Lia thing with is that a stingray holding a trans flag? Don't know why that is.
Can you go back to that HSTS thing? Is that was
Yes.
that?
Did you find the definition?
Well, I want to. I think so, but it says talking about sexuality with my HSTS friends versus talking about sexuality with my what's that other one?
GP friends.
AGP. Okay, so according to Wikipedia here, homosexual, transsexual. So
okay.
Homosexual. So
that's a gay trans guy who doesn't understand to be a trans guy who is attracted to himself, basically. I think what we're
this
going
is so
for there.
confusing. I'm genuinely confused. So a homosexual trans, and this is again from Wikipedia. So don't Susan or whoever new Susan, the new Indian guy who's probably going to be worse than Susan. We're gonna get the, if Susan is Andrew Cuomo, we're gonna get the Kathy Hochul. But this is the Wikipedia definition. So it says controversial term for trans woman. So a man,
guy,
quote, transitioning into a woman who are attracted to men, or trans men who are attracted to women. Okay, all right.
Yes.
I think
okay, so
their point here is chaos, though. I think they want you to be confused so they can change the rules on you every day.
I was born in the darkness. Help fund Gwen's gender affirming surgery. So you're so full of yourself, and this is where the Andrew says starts to come out a bit, where he gets a little bit mean because he doesn't think anybody else is willing to help fund Jen's gender affirming surgery. I'm so full of myself that I think you should have to pay, and maybe not think that you should have to pay, but people should give me money to help this, or else you're a bigot, basically. Hi, my name's Gwen. I'm 25 years old, so it's not like you're some suffering child. You should be able to pay for your own transgender woman. So you haven't gotten any surgeries yet, but you believe you're a woman in Philly. Unlicensed social worker living in Philly again. Bad writing. And will be undergoing a gender-affirming breast augmentation. I'll be taking a significant amount of time off work. Give me money so I can get implants. Is the long and short of it. Take all of it. 1 second. Take all of it out of this. If this is a woman who's just like give me money because I have to take off work to get my boobs done, you would be like, that's ridiculous. But no, Gwen's got blue hair and says her name is Gwen.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear that these are both just men pretending to be women in a relationship.
And they both think it's hot that themselves dresses as women. So not even that, they both think that they're hot themselves. And then they probably also think it's hot when they kiss them. I don't know. Here's where it gets really weird and creepy, I guess. Tweet number 6 by Jay Crane. Unlike the private HIMS account, the account of Leah's alleged romantic partner, Gwen Weisskopf, is open to the public at estrogen went I go. Okay. Meet Gwen. So this yeah, that's picture number 1 for our audio listeners. This is guy dressed up as a girl in a sense, wearing jean shorts and some sort of leather straps, shirtless underneath a leather jacket and a cowboy hat.
Fishnets.
Really going for the Carl from Walking Dead look, I feel like. Here is, I don't even want to blow this one up, but I will for the pain. A man in women's underwear in the forest. You can see his bulge holding a banana. I can't tell if it's photoshopped in or not. The next photo is the same person in some sort of cosplay on a bed. Again, somebody got mad at me once because I said if you're going to dye your hair green that you really need to keep it up. or else it looks really trashy. The purple, I don't care if you're transgender or not. If you're going to have purple or green or blue hair, you really need to keep up with your dyeing, because once it starts to fade, you look like a crack addict. I'm sorry. These are the things that go through my head when I'm looking at this picture. But they've got a spider tattoo on them, and they're cosplaying on a bed with a whole bunch of BDSM and bondage stuff in the background. Don't blame me. I report the news. And then here is Gwen looking his most feminine, I would say, in this picture with Lia Thomas, who,
looking quite masculine.
Looking quite masculine with some
look at these
hot broad
shoulders. Looks like built like a refrigerator. Yeah.
Built like a swimmer, really. Shout out, Michael Phelps Pfizer vaccine commercials. And that's a whole other tangent we can go on. Michael Phelps, they caught him smoking weed back in the day. And they let him back into the spotlight, and they said, "Don't you again?" And now he's got to do vaccine commercials. Hearsay conjecture.
The other swimming bro, the guy, he did something
the
and
super dumb guy.
Yeah, he did something and then tried to blame it on the Brazilian locals or something.
We're right. He destroyed a bunch of stuff. Jake Crane, number 7, the Twitter thread on twitter.com. Besides posing of bondage gear and in bikinis with a genital bulge, don't you love it? And I run into a lot too, Eric, as a writer, that you've got to, put the down the road description of something. The old genital. You can't really just write, his dong showing. I mean, I guess you can, but we're trying to keep some decorum. Gwen posts dark and satanic artwork. One liked by Lia Thomas, or Lia Thomas, excuse me. Don't want to get sued. Ironically, that Lia will bring about the, quote, collapse of Western civilization, end quote, and another of Lia as a demonic dogs character. So we have this one who looks a little bit Gene Simmons-y, or, singer from the Doors, Jim Morrison. The next one is a weird
Gene Simmons.
This is a weird nude transgender person covered in blood. This is a weird version of Lia Thomas dressed as like one of those satanic dolls. And then a fake, poorly done, mind you, wanted poster. It says wanted for torture, conspiracy, aiding and abetting criminals. Guillotine, heavily armed and barbaric, reward 5,000 gold. So some weird cosplay nerd stuff, which again gives us the window into the I'm a lonely nerd guy who just wants attention, and I suck at swimming. Actually, I'm going to deal with it. Number 8, Gwen and Lia an exclusive couple or in a polyamorous sex pod, says Jake, or asked Jake Crane. One user called crybaby_hellbitch writes, nice polycule, which liked by Gwen on a photo of Lia, Gwen, and 2 other trans people in the post. Gwen tags, this is becoming just like, my God, this person liked this. Oh my God. I was on the pictures. I don't even know. Yeah, so this is them. It could be a joke. I don't know. Lia Thomas, this Gwen guy. Some person says so hot. Person says nice, polycool. All these pictures so cute. And it's just basically a few pictures of them with another couple of people. Who knows who they are.
Wait, they're going to tell us what polycool is. What's the definition of polycool there? What does that say? What is polycool?
Did they say that somewhere? Or polycool, excuse me. All of the people linked through their relationships, usually romantic and or sexual, to one or more polyamorous group.
Okay. All right.
Gwen has this again. This is Lia Thomas's boyfriend, girlfriend. This is a bunch of pictures: him, her, they, them, kissing people. Polycule post, and a third additional person who identifies as mean transsexual. So now we're just getting into the transgressions of these people who want to get together in the forest or the park, I guess, and do weird stuff. We don't really need to look into this person's wider circle about their weird fetish posts. You can see a man bending over, a wreath with a penis in it, a whole bunch of crap. One of the more shocking things we discovered, this is on tweet 11 we're into, and I hate threads. Commented ballless beauties on something that both Lia and Gwen both liked. There it is. There's Lia and Gwen in their safety masks, even though they're indoors somewhere. Ballless beauties. And that's just the nature of the beast. Oh, God. Okay, I think that this is a mysterious round-shaped organ-looking item in a quote ball jar, says Jake Crane, and appeared possibly the severed testicles in a jar. Now you saw on this, Eric, but I was watching some cringe, as I'm known to do, and there was a woman who had her entire uterus in a after surgery, getting it removed. So these things exist. So don't tell me that they don't.
Okay.
And here's the poll they did. We'll close with this. So with that, we leave you the poll. What is in the jar? Lia's testicles, Gwen's testicles, the NCAA's integrity, or a spy balloon. NCAA's integrity is 50.4%. Eric, the floor is yours.
Well, how long does it go on? How many more tweets are there? Just out of curiosity.
14. That was the last one. The next one is 14. It's the last one. And the last one is about Riley Gaines exposing Thomas.
Okay, so I first of all, I want to go all the way back to the beginning and talk about the verified Lia K. Thomas Instagram account. How popular is Lia Thomas on Twitter? Are we talking like millions, 100,000s? Like what does that account look like?
Well, let me just quickly get that for you. Does Lia Thomas have a Twitter? I would assume he would have to.
Because it's just very strange. I'm looking at Lia K. Thomas Instagram account.
Yeah, I don't think he's got a Twitter.
Okay, well, that's even more strange, actually, because the Instagram, the verified she/her Twitter account has 4,000 followers, okay? And then one of the pictures has 3,000 likes, 5,389 comments. So you would think that this person would be far more popular, right? I mean, all those comments, all those likes, but only 4,000 followers on a verified account. So it's almost like I mean, obviously we're talking about it. We continue to talk about it, ad nauseum every time. Leah went away for a while and then came back and popped up, but something just feels completely astroturf about the whole thing. Now, that entire thread, honestly, like you said at one point, it just ends up being, oh, this person liked this post and it's really uninteresting. And on top of all that, this new word that they labeled it with just seems like a regular, cross-dresser enjoying themselves. Like I don't. Again, we already been through that. I don't know why it's different. But my point is, this all is completely astroturf. If this was even remotely real, Lia Thomas on Instagram would have, I don't know, at least double the followers, right? Now, I'm not saying that everything boils down to, social media followers, but if this were real and everybody were behind this, then we're looking at least 10,000 Instagram followers. It's not that tough, right? So how is this such a national story that's getting coverage every single week? And one of the pictures have 53,000 comments or whatever, and only 43 people have chosen to follow it? Something just doesn't add up. Well, none of it adds up. None of it adds up, actually.
College swimming isn't the most popular sport. Oh man, women's sports. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, people should care about, but I'd wager that due to the nature of all of this, that it isn't overly pushed because they don't want you to see actually what's going on inside these people's worlds. They want you to think that Lia Thomas is this, hardworking swimmer who's climbed the ranks on his own merits, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he's a man, that he can swim better than all these women, when actually he, is parading around with this guy who's a transgender, taking photos in bondage stuff, doing poly. They don't want you to think that it is like the extreme that everybody knows it is, that exists for the most part. They want you to think it's just, I'm a swimmer and I just happen to feel like I'm a woman and what I care about is swimming. Not this guy who gets off on dressing like a woman. I'm in a relationship with another guy who does the same thing. We're in a polyamorous relationship with two other guys who do the same thing, and we're into bondage and all this other stuff. People can't really take,
and beating women at sports on top of all that. On top of all that, you're still taking away opportunities from women. Okay.
I think the machine thinks that people can only handle one thing at a time. I mean, you can't go like Black Lives Matter. They never were just like, isn't it amazing how BLM is run by 2 lesbian women for the thing? It was always, police brutality and everything. You can't throw too many people at the old white love this sort of stuff who think it's the greatest thing in the world, because then they start to get confused.
So
But
let
when
me
you
ask you
start
this,
throwing
bro.
one thing at a time, and they're just like, yes, I can support that, because the people who just blindly support the stuff and say let the man swear might not be on board with all this other weird sexual stuff.
Fair. So does this thread though? That was torturous. That was brutal. I looked through it. I didn't really read all of it. It was just like because to be honest with you, and this is the case for a lot of things these days. As bad as it sounds, the truth doesn't even matter anymore. Nobody cares. The narrative supersedes everything. So my question is, do you reading that? Do you think anything different about Lia Thomas? Okay, maybe a one shade even weirder than before. Like, what's really the difference?
The difference, I think, is it helps prove that this isn't just this altruistic and loving endeavor that people want to claim it is. Just like Antifa is not this, group who's just protecting trans rights and, wants everybody to just get along and be treated equally. There's this other layer behind all of this stuff, beneath all of these categories that are extremely pushed on people, whether it's transgenderism, drag queens, or Ukraine even.
Climate.
There's always one layer beneath that's much more sinister. While I don't think people having weird sexual fetishes is sinister itself, it's just a lot more difficult for the general public to accept, which I think is a correct thing to not accept it. This is why there's known as sexual perversion. This is why special dungeons and stuff are this sort of stuff. If you like it, that's fine. Go do it on your own. Leave me out of it. I don't need it publicized and popularized otherwise. But that's what the end goal is here. Just like for everybody else. If you created vanilla Coke, your end goal is to make, vanilla soda become very popular. So, and maybe people at the beginning, Eric, were just like, I don't believe that soda should have vanilla taste in it. That's strange. Well, that's the same thing. I don't believe men should be dressing around children dressed as women in giant prosthetic breasts, but the person who does that really wants you to think that that's normal and a great thing. So this is the same thing. The transgender swimmer wants you to think that polyamorous couples and dressing up as a woman is an extremely great thing. And then Antifa not only wants to defend trans rights, want to usher in communism and anarchism, even though those two things don't mix. And, Vladimir Zelensky, well, he wants your money and he wants to fight for technically defending his land. He also wants neo-Nazis fight for him and shut down all media companies and all political parties, and also torture people in the streets, and then also his own people, and then all these other things. So all it takes is digging one layer deep to find the stuff that they want you to hear. And that goes for everything, which is why I think people should stop believing this sort of stuff, no matter what it is. People do their thing. Let them have their transgender swimming league if they want it. But you infringe and be like, this is the new normal, you guys. I don't like society is developed in a way, and of course it's been pushed. You can argue many things have been pushed, but there are certain actual truths that we can abide by, and that is a man is a woman and a woman is a man, and you can't change that. And then here comes the acid thrown on me, like the shout out Michael Knowles.
Well, it's just, look, it's crazy to me that these conversations are even being had, and it's just happened so fast, bro. Like, this would have been an SNL sketch in 2008. I mean, this now
much later than that, 2007.
Like, it's just so bizarre, right? Like, and we're at the point where this ideology, these ideologues, these extreme gender people, they have gotten so far to where they literally, in many cases, I'm talking about, I should have sent you the video, an MSNBC clip, where they are not even willing to entertain the idea that some people, I'd argue most people, at least 68% of a certain group, which is far too low for the record, far too low. It should be 100, every single person, you morons. Neither here nor there. This group of extremists is literally, quite literally, not even willing to entertain the idea that most people between somewhere in San Francisco and somewhere in New York are not. Look, they don't hate you. They truly don't. They're just like, whoa, this is weird. Maybe don't expose it to my kids. They're really not even willing to entertain the idea that some people aren't buying the man can be a woman thing. Like, they've gone so far. It's not like this is our lifestyle, just accept us. It's like, if you don't literally capitulate to this completely bizarre ideology, then they don't even, right? So it's like how they always talk about how they want respect and they want you to call them the proper pronouns, but they will go around calling you a cis man, even though you're like, I'm not a cis man, I'm just a regular dude, bro. You know what I mean? So they want you to call them the right things, but then if you throw it back on them and say, how about no? How about we're not doing chest feeder? How about we're not doing birthing person? How about I'm a woman? How about I'm a man? None of this cis stuff, that won't fly. You see what I'm saying? It's like they haven't even acknowledged that there's an other side to their argument, which is insane to me.
Let's get going on to one of the next topics. UOPod.com. Please subscribe no matter where you're watching. If you're watching on Twitter, please tweet and give a follow. If you're watching on Getter, please share it, give a follow. If you're listening on Spotify, Getter, Spotify, I get confused. Apple, or Google Podcasts, please follow, give us a share, and give us a positive review. YouTube, you can subscribe as well. That's where UOPod.com goes to, but also we'll be making a landing page for it. More specifically, I'll be making one this week. I don't even get tomorrow off because I work for an American company. Tomorrow is Family Day in Canada. I don't even get off anymore, man.
Wait, so Family Day just happens to be President's Day?
It's tomorrow an actual holiday, though.
No.
It's a non-working holiday for Canada.
No. I mean, there's no school. Good question would be the post office, right? Like, most people are going to work tomorrow. I don't know if the post office and the banks, I don't know. That's a good question.
See, we don't do it that way here. Either everybody's got it off or just the government's got it off. Those are the only two options. Sometimes a banking holiday where the government's got it off and people don't. But things like Family Day, which is different in every province, everybody gets that off. You need to spend time with your family. UOPod.com. We want to go to trains next, Eric, or Kayla Lemieux?
We might as well just stick with the tranny theme. I don't know. Sorry, Susan.
You can't say that.
Sorry.
So the trans teacher, which of course is, in my neck of the woods about an hour away, wearing prosthetic boobies around children, has been caught. Finally, David Menzies has been looking for this for months, so he's probably a little bit peeved off that he didn't get the scoop on this one. Z size, I don't like.
Yeah, how did the New York Post get the exclusive on this? That's crazy.
I don't know. Well, I find out maybe is this.
And they labeled it exclusive because like when the Post has the scoop, they put the exclusive label on that. So they somehow they beat the rebel guys to the punch right in their backyard. So somebody needs to get a talk.
Well, comments. I could give you lots of comments, but I won't for reasons that are to the best of my ability. But this is the person getting into a car, Kayla Lemieux. I forget his real name, but he's a guy. And I guess nothing's really happening. Did he already walk away? I don't know, but there's a picture of it down here. A Canadian teacher who made international news, blah, blah, blah. We know that it's a giant prosthetic breast guy. A resident of Lemieux's apartment complex, I guess, has got the photos. Occasionally when he goes for a walk or when the cops visit. Both uniformed and plainclothes police do regular welfare checks at Lemieux's apartment after they receive death threats, according to law enforcement. And I am telling you, this is not Tim Dillon. This is the guy walking down the street and then look kind of shocked that he's being photographed without it. Now, Eric, does this add to or take away from the theory that this is all a troll. Now, this neighbor is saying that he puts it on in front of students, and then when cops visit him, let's see, he wears prosthetic breasts extremely infrequently. A resident of the apartment complex told the Post. He puts the breasts on to teach, occasionally when he goes for a walk or when the cops visit. So, again, Eric, is this a troll or is this part of his I already forget the term, autogenophilia, I think. And I think that's a Funko Pop in his right hand.
No,
What do you
I
think,
don't
Eric?
think that's a. Look,
Funko Pop?
I thought it
Look
was
at
a.
that.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe if I bring up the article here on my end, I could see it a little bit better. Um, I think I think this is. I think, like you said, it's basically troll over. Like, I think this is it coming to an end because look, there was no way that this story was just going to evaporate into thin air. I've messaged you, I think, a couple of times, like, "What's up with the
Yeah, what's
teacher?"
going
Yeah,
on?
because this story cannot just vanish into thin air. There's no way. We got to get some closure on that. Like, you got to go back down there. I don't know what has to happen, but we're not going to just pretend that it's over. He's just teaching kids with these big fake tits on for the force. No way. Somebody has to figure out exactly what's happening here. I'm still holding out for a good, a good troll. Like, look, skydiving. I mean, come on. There's no way. Look, and I think with like Dylan Mulvaney, like that is I mean, the caricatures of these people. Now, I would venture to say that Dylan isn't really trolling. That's just just a weird, delusional, like, creation of a caricature of a woman. This,
Mhm.
on the other hand, is a middle finger to the established. This is, you know what this is like. This is like that old clip that goes around social media every couple months. I feel like, where the guy walks into the library and the girl comes up and says, "No cameras," and then he says, "Oh no." He identifies as a camera, and the girl just shrugs her shoulders like there's nothing. That's what this is. It's just like, you built this. You built this house of cards, and I'm gonna throw it back in your face. Another thing that this reminds me of, and I just read a story about a guy in California who had obtained $5 million worth of fraudulent Rona relief funds, and they're like,
Mhm.
he created a fake business and his tax returns were fraudulent. And it's like, oh yeah, really? So you're telling me that you guys created this entire scam to destroy businesses and control people and make a little bit of money on top of that, and somebody throws it right back in your face, and now you're mad at them? That's what this is like. It's like, you built this, you created this crazy situation. I'm gonna throw it right back in your face. And this picture alone, see, I highly doubt now, because Dylan Mulvaney is very famous. We're talking millions of followers and, interviews with the president and all that stuff. That person is highly guarded and will never be caught like this. This guy is
Mhm.
like, all right, he's like, I just want to go get a Funko Pop and a bag of chips, and I don't want to put the tits on today. You know what I mean? It's like, it's wearing on him, and he's like, all right, the troll's coming to an end. That's what I think. And hopefully in the next couple weeks here, maybe he'll speak out. Maybe because maybe I'm mistaken, but it feels like we've only heard from the school administrators, the district, the superintendent or whatever. We haven't actually heard from the teacher himself. Is that incorrect?
No, that's correct.
Yeah. So eventually, maybe he might speak out and say what uh what Meat Rocket 69 on 4chan said 4 months ago, that it was all a troll, and then confirm maybe he was Meat Rocket 16. Maybe he's Q. I don't know. But he does look like Tim Dillon.
Yeah. I'm hoping, well, I guess I don't really have a hope or a care in this sort of sense, but I think it's either one of two things, obviously, and then I'm not going to say David. Here's what I say is one of the three things. Either, of course, he's trolling and he's giving up on doing this as much as he used to, and that would lend to the idea as to why there are widespread complaints from the kids, or why there aren't widespread people in his apartment building complex that are outing him all the time. And who knows? This is him walking down the street. This could very well be staged as well. Like, I'm not like, you can't fool this Andrew guy. Like, he's walking down the street, down the middle of the road there, and getting multiple pictures taken of him. And now he's walking on the sidewalk and then crossing the road. These are clear pictures. Run up in front of them with their professional camera, or at least a good phone camera, and take these pictures. I don't know. But the troll would lend that there hasn't been that stuff already, and he's just slowly giving it up because he's tired of it. The other thing is maybe he only gets off on this when he's doing it around children. That's the dark side of it. Of what we just saw of Lia Thomas is actually getting off. Probably enjoys. I don't want to say anything liable, but there's got to be something that we're missing here, obviously, and I'm still leaning towards the fact that this guy is it's just part of his his thing where he would rather do it in places where he's not supposed to. But it's almost impossible to tell because the skydiving thing, the walking down the street, maybe he's a Tim Dillon fan and he tried to dress like him. I don't know, but it's very hard to tell. And if it is a troll, then bravo, you've exposed the school board and everything. And I've said this for years about Jonathan, the artist formerly known as Jonathan Yaniv. He sues people who call him that. He goes by Jessica previously, and now he goes by Jessica Simpson. I've pontificated whether or not he's trolling for years. I don't think that's true. But if this guy's idea of trolling was to expose the system, well, the system didn't crack. They didn't blink. They didn't bluff. They said, we're supporting this stupidity and we're going till the end of the earth. And now a group of parents is finally suing the school board. I don't think anything will happen. This is Canada. You can't be mean. It's just, you can't be mean to the people who want to take your stuff and make your life worse. The commission for Justin Trudeau came out. They said that, because it's available in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Emergencies Act it's called, that it's not dictatorial to do such a thing. So they're basically saying that if the government wants to temporarily suspend your rights for what they determine to be an emergency, then they can freeze your bank account. They can bring out the SWAT teams on you. They can bust open your truck. They can trample you with a horse. They can do whatever they want because it's in their legal right to do so, essentially, which is to suspend your right to protest and call something a terrorist event, a crime, all these things. But this is Canada. The government will protect these things till the day they die, and it's all because everybody is too cowardly to be the mean guy. And that's where Andrew comes in. And I'm talking in third person because Andrew says as much of an idea as it is a person. But that's what has to happen. You got to be mean sometimes. And I'll cite John Doyle's latest video, which is an absolute banger, I would say, where he goes to a women's march. And he's like, you know what? The people who are left coming out to these things, which is not many, are so far gone in their ideology. They're obviously not going to change their opinion based on what John Doyle says. And who does he get accosted by? A girl who said that she worked for Biden, who admits she's on SSRIs, like brain-altering medication. She thinks she's really hot. She yells at him about nothing, calls everybody incels. And then there's two guys. One guy who's clearly mentally deficient in some way, and I don't mean that in a mean way. He's just got something wrong with him. And then another fat guy holding a Black Women's Lives Matter sign, and then calling John Doyle and his crew small dick energy. Like, it's just you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And that's basically what Canada is like all these politicians and the school board for this boob teacher are the people who are just the people who are defending this they're all that's left. And those are the people that are running the country. Unfortunately, they don't care at all. They don't actually care at all. They're just out there trying to say the thing that will get them the most money and the most, social media reach possible, fortunately.
Yeah, it's dark. You guys are basically California and New York combined.
We might be still ahead of, I don't know, Britain or Australia, but they haven't made any noise in a minute. The last thing we'll talk about here, as you guys go to uopod.com and you subscribe, you share this, and you sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/uopod. Me and Eric will, I'm looking at my time watch here, and we'll be creating some content together in real life, Eric Butler, and we'll throw that on there, and that'll be the start of our content. I think none of it will be us doing each other's makeup. I don't think.
Oh Jesus!
So yeah, like and subscribe and share and please and do everything. Getter. I mean, I've looked at Getter recently, Eric, and Getter has its own streamers, and we're getting just as much, if not more, on our streamers. Getter, hit us up. We're available.
Yeah, somebody told me this was the best podcast on Getter. I
Good.
can't confirm or deny. It's just what I heard.
Somebody in the chat says something with trans people. Super chat it if you want that read on the air. Now, the last thing for our callback episode here, Eric, is I want to say, how long has it been since we've been talking about what happened on January 7th? Or is it January 6th?
6th.
I don't even know anymore. That's how important it is to other people on MSNBC. And I'm over here saying the wrong day. But as Tucker Carlson and Revolver News, I believe, is who talked about it the most. The Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and the 3%ers, all with men from the federal government, working with them. Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, which is supposedly white nationalist organization. I'm not vouching for them, but it's hard to be like, hey, white nationalists, and your leader is a Hispanic guy. Okay. But they were all at January 6th. The Oath Keepers were on undercover video. Undercover, just extremely clear. Looked like a guy just holding a camera in a parking garage, planning it out. I'm not sure as much with the 3%ers, as in I can't recall off the top of my head. Go to Revolver News for that. But Enrique Tarrio, a former FBI informant, just so happens to become the leader of the Proud Boys. And now it comes out that he was texting with a member of the DC police, which we know are the hardest of core police. And he was texting with an intelligence officer of the DC police. So here it is, messages. Officer often fed information to Proud Boys leader. Now, the question here is, Eric, the police doing the dirty thing and, he sides with the Proud Boys and he's giving them information, or is it that they're actually just working together and the police are openly working together? This is the catch-22 that is involved in all these stories.
Working together to what?
To be like, let's do this stuff on January 6th. Let's make it look really bad. You're this would be the alleged scenario, would be police and the Proud Boys in this situation are working together to make people who are Trump supporters look bad on January 6th, or the Proud Boys are so bad, the people who are looking to cause trouble and they happen to be Trump supporters and they happen to be fed information by a cop that supports them. Those are the two scenarios as I see it.
Yeah, I really don't understand this. Like I think I mentioned this. It reminds me of The Departed. Like they're double crossing each other and nobody knows who to trust. You have a mole on each team feeding information to the other team and nobody knows who the mole is. It's all completely out of whack. All surrounding January 6th, which, I was nowhere near the Capitol on that day, so I know nothing about it, but it just, and this is what happens with every single thing. They take a little grain of truth, a little tiny grain of salt, grain of salt or a grain of sand, or maybe even half of a grain of rice where there's truth, and then blow it into this entirely, overzealous, completely, over the top media Hollywood production. None of this even matters, bro. It's just they're still harping on it because they need a villain, right? Like, so whether it's it's like half the time the establishment hates the cops and they want to defund them and they're all evil racists, and then the other time they love the FBI because the FBI is gonna take, is gonna pin. Remember when Russia was a thing and Robert Mueller and the Russia investigation? I mean, it's all an absolute joke. None of it is to be taken seriously. And how do we, I mean, how at this point in 2023, how are you going to gain the trust of anybody? If you're the media, if you're the FBI, if you're even the Proud Boys, it appears to me that the lines are already drawn. I mean, how are you changing hearts and minds in any direction? Same thing with Rona, same thing with climate change, same thing with gender ideology. To me, and now it's hard for me to see because I'm so deep in, but there's only one way this stuff can go. Nobody is buying into the nonsense at this point and crossing over onto the side of the weirdo establishment agenda talking points. There's only people slowly but surely in a perfect world coming out of it. So how do you actually, I mean, how do you trust any of these people with all of this nonsense going on? How do any of these organizations even begin to build trust with anybody? It's over.
A police officer frequently, says Yahoo News, they aggregate everything, including what I wrote the other day about like some weird black supremacist thing. This is Associated Press. A police officer frequently provided Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio with internal information about law enforcement in the weeks before other members of his far-right extremist group, there it goes, stormed the U.S. Capitol, according to messages shown at the trial of Tarrio and 4 associates. A federal prosecutor showed jurors a string of messages that Metro Police Lieutenant Shane Lamond and Tarrio exchanged in the run-up to the mob's attack on January 6th. Intelligence officer for the city's police department was responsible for monitoring groups like the Proud Boys when they came to Washington for protest. So a group or a guy that was responsible for monitoring them is also providing them with intelligent information. So he's the guy, he's the front end and the back end of it. He's the one monitoring them and giving them the information.
Yeah, so he's giving them the information, or they're giving him information, and they're crossing on the Proud. I mean, who?
Less than 3 weeks before January 6th, Lamond, Warren, Terry, and Secret Service were all spun up over talking InfoWars internet show that the Proud Boys planned to dress up as supporters of President Joe Biden on the Democrats' inauguration day. Justice Department prosecutor Connor Mulrow asked a government witness, FBI Special Agent Peter Brovsky, how common is it for law enforcement to disclose information in that fashion? I've never heard of it, says the guy lying through his teeth. No one's ever, been bad in the FBI. They've never leaked information. Tarrio was arrested in Washington 2 days before the attack and charged with burning a BLM. See, that goes more towards the side of, they're in on it. 2 days before, he would have assumingly participated in January 6th. He gets arrested on burning a flag. So therefore he can't protest at the Capitol. Come on now.
I remember that incident.
In a message to Terry 25th, 2020, Lamont said Metro Police investigators had asked him to identify Tarrio from a photograph. He warned Tarrio the police may be seeking a warrant for his arrest. Later on that day, Tarrio posted a message to other Proud Boy leaders that said the warrant was just signed. Before the trial started in January, Tarrio's attorney said Lamont's testimony would be crucial for his defense, supporting Tarrio's claims that he was looking to avoid violence. Who said Lamont has a Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, so the cop won't speak on trial, basically. Tarrio's attorneys have accused prosecutors of bullying Lamont into keeping quiet by warning the officer he was charged with obstructing the investigation into Tarrio, Miami resident who is national chairman of the Proud Boys. So the cop is not testifying against Tarrio after feeding him information because they're saying Tarrio's people are saying they're bullying the cop. So why would you, as a guy, want to defend this cop that was feeding you information illegally? I mean, I guess it's your friend, but would attorneys really advise that you stand up for the guy who's committing crimes by leaking crucial inside police information about warrants, that's like a big crime. Like if a drug dealer was going to be arrested, like, and be raided, and somebody in the police department tipped the guy off, so he got away and flew away, whatever it might be, that's costing police resources. So why
yeah,
would
but you can do that in Oakland, California, when the ex-mayor
ICE is
tips off
coming?
the illegals. Yeah, the ICE is coming. So look,
But why would Terrio's attorneys be like, "Hey, don't they're picking on this cop"? Like, do he have something to expose them for, or is it because, just like Terrio not going to January 6th, are they, protecting this cop who was, working with the Proud Boys? That's the question here, and this is, of course, all conjecture and not. We don't have any actual information. This is just news analysis, YouTube, as we will be saying already. Auto demonetized podcast was appealed.
well,
What were you gonna say?
look. No, I just don't understand any of this. I didn't even understand it like when people were saying that Tario was uh feeding the feds information about some drug gang in Florida. I mean, like I said, there's no way to trust any of these people at this point. So the FBI looks like, I mean, I don't, at this point, we've come so far that I don't even remember what their job is supposed to be, because as far as I can remember, they've just been the basically the legal version of Antifa, right? Like they've been tracking down, they call parent groups terrorists, and anti pharmaceutical people are a threat to this nation, and they come up with these weird flags and warnings and stuff. So from where I'm standing, they're literally attacking the American population in a legal way, whereas Antifa would do it illegally with Molotov cocktails and stuff. But now it seems like from their point of view, they're saying that they think that, so everybody thinks the FBI is crooked, but they're looking at it from a different angle. And we've come so far that the AP is obviously untrustworthy. Everybody from the White House itself to the CDC, the FDA, the FBI, nobody has shot it straight to us. Maybe ever. We don't know. It's just become incredibly clear in the past 3 or so years that it's all completely corrupted. But there's no way to decipher who's telling the truth in any of this. And I think it works in the establishment's favor because, like I said, same thing with this Transformer stuff. Chaos works for them. They want chaos. They want to make sure that if everything's crazy, they can always demand more power. They can always demand more funding. They can always change the rules, and just, because chaos is a good thing for their agenda, right? So I don't know what to make of this story. I don't think January 6th is that big of a deal. I don't think the Proud Boys are that scary a group of people. I think this is all completely overblown, and we should be worried about perhaps, uh, the price of eggs or inflation. I mean, we have a laundry list of other things that maybe we want to look at, like, I don't know, continuing to indoctrinate children with this weirdo. Like I said, even earlier in this episode, I think that's the main thing, is the gender ideology, because that is the foundation of all that is real and true. So this, you can call it a distraction, spy balloon, train derailments, all that stuff. None of that flies. None of these other stories, none of these other hoaxes, none of these other talking points or current things, none of those are even remotely believable unless you have a population that is so easily manipulated that they believe a man can become a woman. So that's that's the hill that I am dying on, and none of this actually really matters. Enrique Tarrio, they burn a BLM flag. I mean, think about it. Last thing here. I've been to DC a number of times. I don't know when the last time you were there, but you can find people, even in San Francisco or New York, even, you can find people in one protest burning an American flag, no problem. But if Enrique Tarrio and the Proud Boys burn a BLM flag or a rainbow flag or whatever it is, then that's the end of the world. They're going to jail. They'll find something. So maybe burning the flag wasn't it, but you might have jaywalked after you stomped the flag out. You know what I mean? So this is
Well, that's what I think is so unbelievable. It says Terrio routinely cooperated with police and had provided Lamont the cop with useful information. So
they were both
now
informing each other.
exactly, because that goes back to the point of that they're working together. The Proud Boys
But working
leadership,
together
just
to
like
do
the
what? Like, what was the to attack the Capitol? They were working together to do that.
I think so, and I think the reporting by Revolver of all three of these groups and Tucker Carlson as well team shows that it was, I think, upwards of 13 people involved from the FBI. And then you've got, Ray Epps, like the most obvious thing in the world. And then the videos of them letting people in. Now, you could say they wanted to cause less damage by just letting them in, but there's so many things. They're saying that he's a dirty cop with inappropriate relationship, placed on administrative leave by the police force. Said Lamont aided his arrest for burning the Black Lives Matter banner. See, I think they're just protecting a cop that, and this is really long. We might have to do a separate dive into this, but they're attacking the guy here. They're saying you're attacking the guy who worked with them, and I guess they're saying that they don't want him to speak out about how the police were involved. But I don't know. I don't either side at this point.
Yeah.
Ever since there was a sort of distinct mark where the Proud Boys, they were getting in fights. Like Gavin McInnes had to step away from them because of all the stuff going on with him. And then it stopped really being a thing. They arrested that big Samoan guy. And once, everybody starts getting in federal trouble, this is where we start to cut deals. And this is where start infiltrating it. The same with everything. Like, you got to know that Antifa is riddled with feds. There was a video back in 2017.
Is it though? Are they really taking down Antifa members?
They're not taking them down. They're controlling them.
All right. Well,
I guess that's another show, Eric. We're going to have to bring somebody on for that debate, I think. Eric Butler versus trans and activist. The last thing I guess we were going to talk is about how often trains derail, and I guess we're pretty much out of time. But, Biden admits that the balloons they shot down since the first one were like weather balloons, and they spent $200,000 in missile on it. And it turns out they're just shooting down things like, oh, people are mad at us for not shooting down balloons. Let's shoot down balloons as soon as we see them without knowing what they are. And then, you've got the train derailment here. Now that becomes a thing. So in the same way that everybody's like, look, a balloon, especially the Biden administration, I'm not blaming people for that. But now everybody's this truck is overturned with chemical spills. This stuff actually happens all the time, and I'm probably going to make myself look bad by simplifying this, but 1,700 train derailments per year from 1990 to 2021, and now every time a train gets derailed, upward 10 or something, let's say, we're getting derailed, people are just being like, what the hell is going on? It's all conspiracy theory. That is not the conspiracy theory that trains are being derailed. And I'll just say something really quickly here, and then you can add to it as well about the Ohio train crash. It seems to me that they don't want to admit, for some reason, that something inside that train, a chemical, is really bad, and that's why they don't want to go there, and that's why they don't want to tell people what the actual chemical is, and that's changed a few times. There seems to be something that this company probably wasn't, telling people that they were shipping, or the government was using them for some reason. And then just one more thing to touch on and I blame a lot of boomers for this. They're not all bad, of course, but they don't trust anything the media says. But like this video of a guy that I saw saying that the draft is coming in Canada this week because the Chinese spy balloons, they'll believe a guy in the car who says he's got a contact in the military. And now we're at this point where so many people just jump on these ridiculous conspiracies instead of just focusing on what it actually is. So this conspiracy that all these trains are being derailed, and the Netflix show predicted things. I think that it's just actually people saying, hey, wouldn't it be hilarious to me, because I'm sick, to that person, not me. Let's rewind that. Oh, I'm saying this person would say he watches a Netflix show where this train derails in this town. He's like, well, why don't I go make a train derail in that town? Everybody's going to think it's a conspiracy. I'm not I'm not too. There's probably a 4 or 8 channer out there that's into doing something like that, Eric. So I think that the conspiracy of train derailments is a thing that the media uses because train derailments are in, just like balloons are in, and people are going to write about it. And I don't condemn them for that because it doesn't have to be misleading or anything. People see train derailment and they're like, oh my God, trains are being derailed at an alarming speed. And it turns out that they're not. The real thing is here is why do they not want to send people in? Why do they not want to visit it? On the other side, you can be like, you're staying in this town where the water looks like it's got motor oil in it and your animals are dying. So that's what I think is going on there.
Yeah.
What do you is the main focus that people should be focused on in that?
Well, hey, I think your copycat theory. I don't know if I'm buying that. It's like the copycat killer type of thing. Like,
So you want to say the Netflix is predictive programming to say that this town going to put? What would be the point of that though?
No, I don't know anything about the Netflix movie. I don't. This is the first time ever hearing
Train
of it.
derails in the same town as the train.
Okay, but I'm just saying. So I'm not calling it predictive program. I could say it's a complete coincidence anyway. I think I'm not trying to say it's predictive programming, but I'm also saying that I don't know if I'm ready to accept the copycat killer theory on either way. I never even heard of the movie until you just mentioned it right now. But to your point, the last thing I'll say is that it's in right now. So we do it when cops and black people are a thing. Then cops interact with people every single day, hundreds of thousands of interactions all the time. But for 6 or 8 weeks at a time, they're gonna hyper analyze every single little. There was a point in time when people thought that what was his name, Jacob Blake, and the news outlets were reporting that he died, and he didn't even die. You know what I mean? So they'll take it, like I said, they'll take every tiny little thing that starts with a grain of truth and blow it up into this entire thing. So yeah, train derailments are so hot right now, so it's in the news. Look, I'll admit that it does seem strange because nothing is off the table at this point in time. Like, am I going to sit here and say, oh, it's all a conspiracy? They want you dead, so they're going to start derailing trains and putting pollution into your city? No, but I think it is a little bit more likely that the managed decline and whatever sort of weird money laundering scheme and whatever sort of weird things that Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration are all into could be causing these things. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they want you dead and that's why everything's happening. But it's like their track record of just being awful people on so many levels that they just don't care. So if, right? I mean, there's that meme going around of this crazy, crooked, dilapidated train track. And they say, this is what the train tracks look like in the Midwest. And all the money goes to Ukraine. So is it a 1-for-1, they're going to kill you? No. But is it, we're going to line our pockets through this managed decline because these establishment politicians, however, allegedly, they make more money on the way down than they do on the way up, type of thing. You know what I mean? So that's what I think about it. And of course, it's always something, right? It's kind of like when you buy a new car, you start to see that same car on the road. So this one train story hits and they're like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. And it's the same thing with the drag queen story hour, right? Like that gets into trending, and then every single one, neo-Nazis take over drag queen story hour in San Francisco, and Antifa shows up armed at drag queen story hour in Texas, and they're just, it's just the news cycle now. It's all completely, which is good and bad, right? Because before we had a handful of news outlets and they were only feeding you what they wanted you to know. And now we have everybody out there trying to get their clicks, and everybody out there trying to break a story and trying to do stuff. So on one side that's good, but then on the other side there's so much noise, and it's also really sad that whatever happened out there, they're burning off this toxic chemical and then telling you that the water is safe to drink, even though you couldn't even go outside without a mask. You couldn't go to the grocery store without a mask a year ago. So it's all very bizarre. And last thing here, I promise, this time next week, it won't even be a thing. It'll be completely gone.
Well, I like to take the less popular approach, I guess, because I think it's too easy to say some stuff like that. But I have I hate victim mentalities. I hate people who do things for attention that are at the cost of other people. Like I'm watching the TV of some of these people. I don't understand. And they're telling me the water is clean, but you stir it and it looks like there's, coolant in it. Then obviously it's not clean. Like what are you talking about? Like I don't believe the government at any other time, but now the EPA is telling me the water is great, even though I could see that it's not. And you're just like, I'm confused. Like just leave. I know it's not easy, but if we're talking about your animals are dying and your drinking water is poison, then you're going to have to leave. I'm sorry. And there's these cringe conspiracy theorists out there. And as a guy who likes conspiracies, this Stu Peters guy who's from Canada, this is a blatant liar. And this is the people that I talk about, that I mean when I talk with these people. He'll just post something and do no research into it, and then people will, and this is like a right-wing problem, people will just share and be like, see, see, they're trying, like, this is true, like, see, here's another thing. And
That's not
it's
just a
always
right-wing problem. That's happening everywhere.
well, my point is that you get these people who it's the fourth, fifth, and the sixth thing, just like the train derailments or the truck that overturned on the highway in Texas. Like, unless you think that guy purposely overturned his truck, I mean, that's a possibility on the side of the highway. Then it's not a conspiracy that this truck was overturned. So this Stu Peters guy is the guy who had remember the Pat King guy from Canada who said he got the government of Alberta to admit that there was no virus. This was a guy whose show it was on, where he was just like, "Oh, so what you're saying is this?" And this is the guy he's a guy who just posts stuff, does no research at all, and he knows that people are gonna take it that way. It'd be like the Tyree Nichols guy. If you posted that and said, "Yet another black man killed by police," people are just gonna be like, "Oh my god!" And then you click on it and you look into it, and it's like, "Oh, it was 5 black cops." So it's not the racial thing that people thought it was, but you're banking on them, clicking on that or believing that on purpose and sharing it. That's what the type of people I'm talking about. So when I talk about people drumming up conspiracies, it's like these people online think that they're the only ones with access for information, and everybody just thinks they're some sort of reporter now. And maybe it annoys me more than it should, but it's just like, and I see somebody in chat just being like, predictive programming. It's Twitch guy, unfortunately, because I did love you, Twitch guy, but predictive programming all over the place, Operation Northward. It's like, dude, do you think that like I've been on the internet since it started? Like I know about conspiracies. There isn't this special access to information that Stu Peters or the latest person who's a Canadian, lockdown skeptic has. The guy in the car who says Canada's having a draft soon. They don't have the special access to information that they want to claim. It's just not true. We all have the internet. It's just not a thing, is what I'm trying to say. Is these people aren't special, and when you start treating these stories like everything is, you bet the farm on everything, then you're going to start to look stupid. And the problem with these people is they don't have that, they don't have the responsibility, because they're just, people from wherever. There was this one guy in his car shouting stuff. They don't have to have a reputation for this stuff. If I go on and I start saying, the government admitted this and that, and it turns out not to be true, then people aren't going to hire me and people aren't going to trust me or follow me. When I'm conspiracy guy X from his car saying, I have a connection in the military, you don't have to believe me or not, he's going to come back 3 days later and say the same thing, and people are going to be like, see, I'm sharing this. It's all a clout chase. Eric Butler of TatumReport.com.
Yeah, well,
see how I roll that back into a promotion?
They're look, the Guy X on Reddit or Guy X on 4chan, unfortunately, for better or for worse, is just as trustworthy as the media now. So it is what it is. They're all the same.
Twitch guy, I don't like you anymore.
Wow, way to get rid of a viewer. Good job.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't like him anymore. Because I said that Pat King isn't a real guy. Who got the government to admit something. Now I think, according to him, I think COVID is, this is all on the level and everything. That's the same I'm talking about. Oh, this person said this one thing, therefore my special internet access, I've got AOL Messenger, I've got the AOL browser, I've got special internet access. But we still love you, Twitch guy. I don't actually dislike you. I just think you think that there's this special corner of the internet that you only have access to.
We need to keep
Anything
that
else,
viewer.
Eric?
No, we need to keep that viewer. Shout out Twitch guy. Buy my book.
Buy Eric's book if you don't like them.
Yeah. And
like
subscribe to
me,
my
buy
channel. I'm
Eric's
gonna
book.
be posting on my channel a bunch more now. Like we spoke offline a little bit. Maybe a daily show, maybe something like that. I'll try to, do my own thing. And
what if you wear a different costume every day? One day you're a girl, another day you're a clown. Eric the Clown. That's a good reference. You know that reference?
I do know that reference.
Shout out Seinfeld.
Classic.
All
Yeah,
right.
Buy the book. That's it. Long episode today.
UnAuthorized.com.
You were
I
screaming
know.
screaming at the Twitch guy.
Twitch guy took up 3 minutes extra that I didn't want to do. UOPod.com. My stuff, AndrewSaysTV.com. Eric's Report and Opine on everything. And then, of course, subscribe to us, share it. And if you're listening, we love you. Podcast is growing on all streaming, Spotify, iTunes, and Google. See you next Sunday.
Turn it up, Jordan.